Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Vivek Kumar. In my last video lecture, I have described some basic steps of variational approach to solve mechanical engineering problem using finite element methods. Okay, in this video lecture, we will be applying the variational approach to obtain the numerical solution of a stepped bar subjected to axial loading. In this problem, we need to find the stresses induced in the different elements of the bar or different step of the bar which is subjected to a load of 1 Newton at this location or at the free end. The cross-sectional area of the two steps are 2 cm square and 1 cm square, and the length of each of the step is 10 cm. The Young's modulus is given as 2 into 10 raised to the power 7 Newton per centimeter square. A, E and L denotes the area of the cross section, Young's modulus and the length. And the superscript here represents the element numbering. So this will be our first element. It will be connecting node 1 and node 2. And this will be the second element which will be connecting to node 2 and 3. So as you can see here we have 3 nodes, 1, 2 and 3. So it is a 3 degree of freedom system. So the force vector, which is the P vector, will comprise of the force at the node 1, that is at the fixed end, force at the node 2, intermediate, joint, and the force at node 3. Correspondingly, we will be having 3 displacement, phi1 at node 1, phi2 at node 2 and phi3 at node 3. So basically when we represent the subscript, it will be the representation of the number of the node, and when we be representing superscript over any parameter, it will be representing the element number. Now we have discretized our stepped bar into 2 elements, that is element 1 and element 2. The element 1 is subjected to phi1 displacement at node 1 and phi2 displacement at node 2, and similarly element 2 have phi2 displacement at node 2 and phi3 at node 3. Now next step is to develop a interpolation model. So here the primary field variable will be the displacement. So the displacement has been defined as linearly varying between these two nodes. This equation is applicable to both the element. So phi x has been defined as a plus bx. Now we need to find the value of this constant a and b. We can find this value by applying the boundary condition. That is, at node 1, or we can say at x is equal to 0, the value of the displacement is phi 1. So value of a will be equal to phi of 1. Here the E denotes the element numbering. So these expressions are applicable to both these elements. For the element 1, E will be equal to 1, and for the element 2, E will be equal to 2. Now using the another boundary condition, that at a length of LE, x is equal to LE, we are having the displacement phi 2 E for a respective element. So when we substitute x is equal to LE, we will be representing a plus b, LE is equal to phi of 2. From here we will obtain the value of the b. So this will represent phi x. This will be the interpolation model for the displacement is represented as phi, that is the displacement at node 1 plus this function b into x. Now the next step is to obtain the integral, which have to be minimized over the solution domain, that is from first node to third node, or for the entire volume of the system. For that we need to find the function f, which is a function of the x coordinate, displacement derivative with respect to x, and displacement derivative with respect to double x. This function will be integrated over the entire volume. So in case of the structural analysis, the integral is generally gives the value of the potential energy in the system. So here the potential energy in the system is a sum of the strain energy and the external work done on the system. The work done on the system is taken as negative. The external work is done by the external force that will be acting on the system. So we will be considering all the forces, external forces that will be acting on all the nodes, that is on the node 1, 2 and 3. So the integral will be the sum of the potential energy in the system, which will be the sum of the strain energy in the first element, strain energy in the second element, minus the work potential or the external work done on the system. The strain energy within an element can be found as half of integral of multiplication of the stress and strain, and that will be integrated over the volume of the element. Okay, as here the area of the cross section of the element, both for the 1 and 2, they are different, but over the entire length of the element they are constant. So instead of dx we can define it as a into dx. Okay, so also we will be using the expression of the stress is equal to Young's modulus into strain for a particular element. Now we will be substituting the value of the direct stress as Young's modulus into strain in this expression. So we will be getting, overall we will be getting AE by 2, which is constant, and we will be integrating the square of the strains over the length of individual element. As we know, the strain is defined as the derivative of the displacement with respect to the length of the element. It can be obtained as phi of it can be obtained as curl of curl x, and here we can place the value of the displacement within an element. So we will be getting constant strain within the element, which will be equivalent to phi 2 minus phi 1, that is the displacement at node 2 minus displacement at node 1 divided by the length of the element. So we will be getting the potential energy of any element as an integral of the square of the strain. So when we solve this integral, we will be getting the strain energy within an element as this function AE by 2L and then this factor. Now we can rearrange these expressions in the form of certain matrices, and that can be represented as 1 by 2 displacement vector, that is the transpose of the displacement vector into stiffness vector, and again multiplied with the displacement vector. So this will represent the potential energy of any element. So the potential energy for the first element has been written over here, and this is the potential energy for the second element. Now we have identified or derived the expression for the potential energy for the first element, potential energy for the second element. Work potential is defined as a vector multiplication of this displacement vector and P vector. P is the force vector which will be applied at all the nodes P1, P2 and P3. Now we will be applying the principle of minimum potential energy for obtaining the solution of the problem, and the solution is obtained in terms of the displacement at all the nodes. So we need to for that we need to differentiate the I function with respect to individual displacement at all the nodes. So phi I represent the displacement at a particular node. So value of I will be going from 1 to 3. So this equation will represent here as the summation of the potential energy for the first element and the second element minus the work done by the external forces. When we perform the differentiation of these expressions with respect to this displacement, we will be finally getting this expression, okay, in the vector form. Here we have expanded the expressions for the potential energy for the first element, potential energy for the second element, and the work done by the external forces. Now differentiating this term with respect to the displacement at node 1, we will be getting this equation. When we differentiate I with respect to displacement at node 2, we will be getting this equation. And when we differentiate I with respect to displacement at the third node, we will be getting this expression. So overall we are getting 3 equations, and in each equations the output will be P1, P2 and P3, and phi1, phi2 and phi3 are the displacement at individual nodes. Now in these three equations we will segregate the terms for phi1, phi2 and phi3. So the first equation can be rewritten as follows. Here we have the phi1 term, phi2 terms, phi3 terms is absent here, so its coefficient will be taken as 0. Similarly, we will be segregating the terms for phi1 and phi2 in second equation. So here we will get the coefficient associated with phi1, phi2 and phi3. And similar exercise can be performed for the third equation. Here the coefficient with respect to phi1 is equal to 0. When these all three equations can be written in the matrix form as follows. So here we are getting this matrix. This is known as the global stiffness matrix of the system, and phi1, phi2, phi3 will correspond to the displacement matrix, and they will be equal to the force matrix that will be acting on the individual node. Now we need to verify that same equation, means K phi is equal to P, can be also be obtained by using the direct method, which we have described in the previous lecture. So as per the direct method, the stiffness matrix can be written as DOF into DOF square matrix. So as here we have 3 degrees of the freedom, so we will be having 3 by 3 matrix, and K11, K22, K33 are the diagonal element of such matrix. Now again, phi is the displacement matrix, which can be represented as a column vector phi1, phi2, phi3, and P is the force vector P1, P2, P3. So for the first element, which is between the first and the second node, as from previous lecture, the local stiffness matrix can be written as AE by L and these terms. So these terms, when we multiply, we will be getting these terms, we will be multiplying with A1 E by L, we will be getting the K11, K12, K21, K22 contribution towards the global matrix. Similarly, we can define the stiffness matrix for the second element, which is connecting second and third row, second and third node. Okay. Now let us assemble these individual stiffness matrix into the global stiffness matrix. So here we are getting, for the first element, we are getting the contribution from K11, K12, K21 and K22. So in the global stiffness matrix, we will be filling first square matrix. For the second element, we are getting the contribution towards the 2, 2, 3, 3, 2 and 3, 3 term. So we will be adding these terms over second row onwards and second column onwards. So these terms will be added into these 4 terms. So this will be the global stiffness matrix obtained by using the direct method. You can easily see that this stiffness matrix, global stiffness matrix obtained from the direct method, is same as that obtained from using the variational approach. So now let us proceed with the solution of the problem. So the general expression we have obtained for the system is stiffness matrix, overall stiffness matrix, then this displacement vector and the force vector or the load vector. Now we will be applying the boundary condition. The first boundary condition is that displacement at the fixed node is equal to 0. There is no external force acting on the second node, P2 is equal to 0, and at the third node or the free end, the force is 1 Newton. When we apply all these values into the global system of the equation, the overall equation will reduce to in this form. Now we will be perform the matrix multiplication, and we will be getting three algebraic equations. The simultaneous solution of these algebraic equation will provide us that phi3 will be equal to 0.75 into 10 raised to the power 6 centimeter, and phi2, that is the displacement at the second node, will be 0.25 into 10 raised to the power 6. Now we will be calculating the strain. We will be calculating the strain for the element 1 and for the element 2. The strain within the first element can be calculated as the difference of the nodal displacement at the second node and the first node divided by the length of the element, and it comes out to be 0.25 into 10 raised to the power minus 7. From the value of the strain, you can easily obtain the value of the direct stress within the first element. It will be the multiplication of the Young's modulus into strain, and it will come out as 0.5 Newton per centimeter square. Similarly, you can find the strain within the second element as the difference between the nodal displacement at the third node and the second node and divided by the length of the element. It comes out to be 0.5 into 10 raised to the power minus 7, and then you can find the direct stress as a multiplication of the Young's modulus and the strain within the second element. It comes out as 1 Newton per centimeter square. With this, we have found the solution, complete solution for the structural analysis of a stacked beam subjected to axial loading using finite element method, that is the variational approach. So far we have found the displacement at the second and the third node. Then we have obtained the displacement, the strains within the first element, second element, and the stresses within the first and second element. Now take this numerical as a home exercise. In this numerical, you have to find the temperature distribution within a film along the x direction. So it will be a problem of one-dimensional finite element analysis. Okay, so the temperature, this solution domain can be discretized into two elements, element 1 and element 2. Element 1 will be connected between the first node and the second node, and T1 is the temperature and T2 is the temperature at these nodes. Element 2 is connected between the second, is obtained by connecting second and the third node, and T2 and T3 are the temperature at the third node. The length of each element is same, that is equal to L by 2 or 2.5 centimeter. The governing equation which will give the steady state temperature distribution within the film is given by this expression. Here K is the thermal conductivity of the material, A is the area of the cross section, H is the convective coefficient, P is the parameter of the cross section, and T infinity is the ambient temperature or the surrounding temperature. So the boundary condition is given that at x is equal to 0, the T is equal to T naught, or T1 temperature is given as 140 degrees Celsius. So first you need to find the functional, that is F. So there is no need to find the functional because I is already given here in this numerical. So we have to minimize the I. So the first step you have to do in solving this problem is to approximate the temperature distribution within an element. You can assume the linear distribution of the temperature or linear variation of the temperature between the first and second node and second and third node. So T can be attributed as T is equal to A plus Bx. A and B are your coefficient. Then after approximating the temperature distribution within the element, you will be obtaining the derivative of the temperature with respect to x. Then you will substitute the value of this into this expression. Once you have obtained this expression, now you will be differentiating the value of the I with respect to T1, T2 and T3. By doing so, you will be getting three equations. When you simultaneously solve these three equations, you will be getting the matrix forms as K into T is equal to P, that is the external load. So this kind of the equation you will be getting, and when you solve this equation for the temperature, you will be getting the temperature at the second node as 64.39 degrees Celsius and temperature at the third node is 50.76 degrees Celsius. So try this numerical to develop the basic understanding of the variational approach in finite element analysis. So this is another example for home practice for the variational approach. Here we have to find the velocity distribution at the two nodes. At the first node it is already given. So here it will represent the flow of the fluid through a converging passage. So the whole of the system has been discretized into two elements. Element 1 will be connecting one node and second node, and element 2 will be connecting second and third node. Okay, so area of the cross section at the first node will be A1, area of cross section at the second node A2, and area of cross section at the third node is A3. So effective area of the first element can be taken as the average of A1 plus A2, and the effective area of second and third can be assumed to be average of area of A2 and A3. So again, the differential equation which will be governing the flow within this convergent passage is already given. This represents the continuity equation through this channel. The boundary condition is given that at x is equal to 0, or at the first node u naught is equal to u naught, and it is also given that area of the cross section is decreasing exponentially from the first node towards the third node. So velocity here is defined as a derivative of the potential function. So the potential function will be the field variable associated with this particular fluid flow problem. So again, there is no need to find the functional, as the I is already given in the problem statement. So first you need to approximate the potential function within each element. Once you can assume that potential function is linearly varying between the first and the second, or second and the third node. So once you will find the value of the stream potential, you can differentiate it with respect to x and put its value in I. Now the next step is to differentiate the value of this integral, that is I, with respect to potential function at the node 1, 2 and 3, and thereby you will be getting three equations. When you combine these three equations in the matrix forms, again you will be getting equivalent equation of Kx is equal to P for the fluid flow problem. So when we solve these three equations along with the boundary conditions and the given value and the values that is given in this problem, you can find the velocity of the fluid at the second cross section and the third cross section. So try this numerical at home, and the value of the fluid velocity in the element 1 and the element 2 are at the second and the third node is 1.246 mu naught and 2.054 mu naught. Mu naught is the velocity of the fluid at the inlet, or that is at the cross section 1. So with this we complete the variational method for performing the finite element simulation of mechanical engineering problems. In the next lecture, we will start with the basic steps for weighted residual method for performing the finite element simulations of mechanical engineering problems.